Hi, welcome to the Infrastructure Equipment Skill Council's second part of the basic engines video. Now we can see the four strokes, how it functions. The four strokes are called suction stroke or intake stroke, compression stroke and power stroke, and the last one is the exhaust stroke. Each corresponds to one full stroke of the piston. Therefore, the complete cycle requires 2 revolutions of the crankshaft to complete. Now we will start with the suction stroke or the intake stroke. During this stroke, the suction stroke, the piston moves down from the top dead center and the air is sucked into the cylinder through the open inlet valve, which closes at the end of the stroke. The exhaust valve remains closed during the stroke. Now we will see the compression stroke. During this compression stroke, the piston moves upwards from the bottom dead center. The inlet and exhaust valves, both the valves remains closed. The air is compressed in cylinder with the upward movement of the piston. As the compression ratio of the engine is high, the air is finally compressed to the pressure as high at which the temperature is high enough to ignite the fuel. Now we will see the power stroke. During the power stroke, at the end of the compression stroke, the fuel is injected into the hot compressed air where it starts burning and maintaining the pressure constant. Theoretically, the fuel is injected into the cylinder by the end of the compression stroke and the combustion starts and the fuel and air is mixed and it produces the power to push the piston down. During the exhaust stroke, the piston moves upwards, the inlet valve remains closed and the exhaust valve opens. The greater the part of the burnt gases escape because of their own expansions. The upper end of the piston pushes the remaining gases out, that is the flushing out through the open exhaust valve. The cycle is thus completed. Now we can see the technical part of the displacement, how it is calculated. The total displacement is equal to the area of the piston and the stroke length and the number of cylinders. That's how we calculate the displacement of the engine. Okay, the direct injection system. The direct fuel injection system is such that the fuel is injected through the nozzle into the cylinder that is on top of the piston. Now we will see the nomenclature of a piston. The piston has many construction and the top of the piston is called the head. The crown, which converts the pressure developed in the ignition stroke to a downward force that carries the force to the piston rod. And it has got the ring grooves and they are cut on the circumference of the upper portion of the piston. And the parts below the ring groove is called skirt, and the portion of the piston that separate the groove are called land. The piston bosses at the bottom of the piston or reinforced section of the piston designed to hold the piston pin and the wrist pin. Now we will see the complete construction of the piston and the cutting rod together. Now we will see about the rings on the pistons. There are 3 rings, the top ring and the second ring and the oil ring. This oil ring actually scrapes the excess oil back to the crankcase. That will not allow the oil to go into the cylinder during the combustion. And normally the piston is made up of aluminum. And you can see the cutting rod which is connected to the piston. Then we will see the cooling system of the engine. So the cooling system has water pump, it has got the radiator which is having the tank also, and then it has the thermostat and the water jacket is there on the cylinder block, and there is a oil cooler also there. So we will see in detail about the radiator. the radiator has got the upper tank and the lower tank and the fins in the middle, and there is a pressure valve, and there is a sub tank that's called expansion tank is there, where we fill the coolant, and it has got a pressure relief valve in the cap itself. And we'll see the important component in the cooling system of the engine, thermostat. It is called thermostat valve also. So the thermostat plays the major role in controlling the engine optimum temperature so that the engine runs smoothly. So we see the components inside the thermostat valve. It has got a sensor inside, and it has got a valve, and it has got a valve spring, and one side is connected to the water pump, other side is connected to the radiator. So when the optimum temperature reaches, then the thermostat valve opens, then allows the coolant to go to the radiator to get cooled again for the recycling or the circulation of the coolant to get it cooled again, and it maintains the temperature, depends upon the requirement, that is from 82 to 85 degree centigrade, so that the engine temperature is maintained and the performance of the engine is also in the optimum condition. Now we will see the types of liners, dry liners and wet liners. Liners are the walls outside the piston, that is the cylinder. We talk about the cylinder. So there are two types of liners. One is the dry liner and another one is the wet liner. So the dry liners are part of the cylinder block. It cannot be removed. But the wet liners are the liners which is having the sealed rings on top and the bottom, where the water jacket goes around the cylinder and takes the heat from the cylinder and circulates to the radiator to cool the engine. Now we will see the lubrication system of the engine. So there are a lot of moving components in the engine, so it needs lubrication to run smoothly. So you can see the components: the fuel injection pump, turbocharger, the camshaft, the crankshaft, and the timing gauge. So everywhere there are bearings and bushings, so it needs to be lubricated and cooled. So it starts from the pump. The pump sucks the oil and then circulates it to all the places where the moving parts are there. So it lubricates the bearings for the smooth operation of the engine. And there is an oil cooler, there is an oil filter which filters the oil, and the oil cooler cools the oil, then the oil comes back to the sump. That's all. Thank you very much for watching the Engine Basics 2 of Infrastructure Equipment Skill Council.